So Charles Oliveira is fighting this weekend, and I thought I'd take a look at some of the stuff that he does on the ground that's maybe unique, but stuff that I've certainly stolen from my own training and that I think makes him special. So MMA's in a weird spot because basically no one can do ground and pound anymore. This is Umar Nurmagomedov, who this is him trying hard for ground and pound. His corner is screaming at him, throw some strikes, and like no one can do it anymore. No one can just posture up, free themselves, and land a good shot. When Oliveira met Beneil Dariush, it was quite exciting because Beneil Dariush, he's got a 90% takedown defense rate. He's really hard to get off his feet. He was a world-class grappler, much better than Oliveira was in the gi and in no-gi competition. And Charles couldn't get him down. He got on top of Charles, and we all started going, oh my goodness, what's Charles going to be able to do from here? And then Billy starts dropping the inflatable hammer strikes. For this reason, anyone who can actually free themselves and land good strikes is really notable. It's basically just Arman Tsarukyan, Macy Barber, and Linton Vassell. Those are like the only good ground and pounders in the game today. Just beautiful work by Arman whenever he gets top position. Which brings us to the fight between Arman Tsarukyan and Charles Oliveira, because it's actual world-class ground and pound versus the only good guard in MMA, and it played out really interestingly. I mean, it was a 3-round fight, and basically all of us were begging for 2 more rounds once it was over. But before we even get started, quick note, cut kicks. Most overpowered takedown in MMA. Arman Tsarukyan, almost impossible to get out of position, but kick him at the same time as he's kicking. Oh, look. So you remember Oliveira got on top, mounted him for a while. Arman times a basic but really slick Upa bridge to get to top position. And look what Oliveira does immediately. This holding his own head, here. Keeping Arman's elbow inside on the floor where it's not flying through the air next to his head. So this whole fight, it's overhooks and underhooks for the most part. That overhook here. In boxing, the overhook is the #1 clinch weapon, or at least like stop them punching you weapon. If you grab underhooks in boxing, the guy's still going to bang the sides of your head. They won't be big punches, but he'll still be banging you in the side of the head. Wrapping over, pinching your chest to his. That's how you stop someone hitting you. So when he retracts his elbow here, and he slips it free, you're going to notice that Charles brings his arm up on the inside. There, and he's going to stay on the inside of the arm the entire time, looking for a chance to overwrap it. Good elbow there. This is what Tsarukyan's good at. Fanning around with pretend punches, strips the arm, elbows over the top. Luckily, Charles instinctively, basically whenever the guy starts throwing, Charles pulls them forward and sits up into them. And it means that he gets like an elbow on the side of the neck rather than domed. Nice there. So this is where it plays out, because as soon as Charles gets a good grip here, so he's got his overhook on this side, and he's grabbed the wrist and he's passed it across there. This is pretty good. He sweeps him with this later. But to sweep him, he has to open his legs and get his feet inside. And Tsarukyan floats, switches to an over-under pass here, starts walking around. Charles has to defend and go back to just a regular guard. And this is what's interesting about Arman, because he's shorter than everyone he fights, but especially short in some instances, like this fight with Joel Alvarez. He started trying to step over this knee and go to full half guard, but when he couldn't clear this knee, it now doesn't benefit him being so far back from the opponent's head when he wants to connect with elbows, which are a pretty short weapon. So he tries to step over to pass guard, and then he gives up and he decides to step himself back into guard. So for as good as the guard is traditionally at like holding the guy in, your knees are elevated above their thighs. Anytime you want to get up, your legs are elevated over his thighs for the most part, which makes it harder. It's not insurmountable, but it does mean that basically anytime he wants to push you back on your back, when he feels you start getting up, he will. So here Joel Alvarez steps on his hip, over here, and Arman's going to drop that hip to the floor to strip it, pop, and come back in. Very small movement, but as you see, Joel Alvarez's legs are now, once again, draped over his thighs. Foot on the hip, drop the hip, take it out. Lands a good elbow here against Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker starts trying to pummel his feet inside. Tsurukin walks his knee inside, all the way across, and puts himself back into closed guard. Because down hooker can't push him away without feet inside here in butterflies or on his hips. Can't just use his hamstrings on this shelf here to push away. There's nothing meaningful he can do with that. Starts landing well here. Hooker gets on his side and puts a knee in front. So this sort of like scissor sweep position, this shin across here, and then this foot coming up to the hip or the chest, so it can then push away. Really good, just basic self-defense stuff. But Armin picks his legs up and steps back in, pushes himself back into closed guard, or open guard, but within the guard. And bonus, because this was gorgeous, he walks himself into 3/4 mount. So this foot here can keep Hooker's leg on the mat and make it very hard for him to bridge. It also encourages him to grab the leg with his thighs, which wouldn't really benefit him all that much in an MMA context where striking is legal. Goes wrist control, pushes the hand to the floor, and lands a beautiful elbow here. Oh, love it. Linton Vassal would be proud. So returning to Oliveira versus Tsurukin. Overhook here, wrapping this arm and pulling it into his chest. This was something Fedor was incredible at. He would turn your wrist over so that it was flat, so that the long side of your forearm was pointing out, and he'd pull it into his chest and he could hit beautiful arm bars from there. Tsurukin pulls that down into his chest. This is really slick. Starts coming over the top, comes up the inside there, pushes away on the face. Lovely elbow over the top. Charles swims a foot in on the left side there. Again, re-established this control, kept this overhook. Tried to put this foot inside so he can start creating some action from butterfly guard. Tsurukin immediately. There's Charles's foot. Here's Tsurukin's knee. He's trying to deny that foot access to the inside of this thigh and to pummel back inside it. And it's a bit of a battle. And Charles ends up using that leg as a grapevine here. This is really good for putting in butterfly hooks because you can stretch the guy's leg away. And he finally gets back over that foot and he's back into closed guard. So here's how you limp out of an overhook. Limp arm out of an overhook. There you go, like that. I did a load on this in my episode on mirror locks because they happen all the time in women's jiu-jitsu especially, but anyone who's got a good guard with the overhook, someone will pull their arm out the wrong way and get mirror locked. If you try and pull your elbow out facing down, you're going to get mirror locked. So what you do is you point your elbow upwards as you turn your arm out. So that way. So this is what Charles has been trying to do the whole time. He wants to wrap an overhook, which he's going to wrap on this arm in a minute, and then pass this wrist to that same arm. Overhook, and then you can see Charles's overhook on that side grabbing Tsurukin's arm. And there you can see this overhook is stopping this elbow from coming out and hitting him. But the same arm is also now controlling Tsurukin's other wrist. And with this hand, he ends up pulling to his chest in a way that's quite interesting. But as you can see, hook comes in on the left side. That was real quick. Let's slow it down. Hook comes in on the left side. Boom. Immediately starts elevating. This foot here being stuck outside is a bit of a liability. You can start trying to chop this guy's leg out, but that's hard. Really good butterfly sweepers in gi and no gi. They want to recover this leg and start lifting their hips with it. But that's all you really need. That, his hip to drop, and then Oliveira comes up on the whizzer, wrestles his way up. Just a lovely bit of guard play against an extremely dangerous top player. So here later in the fight, Charles gets hurt by a couple of elbows, which, tells you how good Tsurukin is at elbowing people. But he ends up, Tsurukin starts forcing his way to half guard here, and Charles does something really cool, which I haven't seen anyone else do, and I've since stolen. This bolt cutter grip here. I call it a bolt cutter because Giancarlo Bodoni caught Owen O'Flanagan with a bolt cutter footlock in ADCC a couple of years ago, but, gripping your hands and pinching your elbows across each other. You're doing like a shearing motion with your elbows. And he's pinched the bicep in between here, and he's burying his forehead into the front of Armin's bicep, and then his knee shield, his top knee. You don't typically, if you're ever playing knee shield anyway, but if you're ever playing a knee shield in MMA, you don't want it low because he's going to crack you in the head, but you definitely don't want it across them like this because they'll just drop their weight on it and sandwich your knees together. You watch someone like Craig Jones who does play low knee shield at a high level of grappling, he very rarely lets the knee track all the way across himself. He keeps the knee on this hip over here. But this does something really interesting in this context because it's basically Charles going fetal, knee to elbow, head buried in that bicep. They bring it around the other side in a second, and so this is a really cool move. Watch Charles's knee. He kicks it out behind Tsarukyan and uses it to pull him forward. Like that. And now Tsarukyan's on top of him. Head's buried in here. This arm not going to hit him. Like, completely locked up. This arm, it looks like he could just sit up and crack him, like I was talking about with low knee shield earlier. But because he's so locked in, if Tsarukyan tries to posture up, he's just going to take Charles with him. Very hard to try and swing this over here. So what he does is he just settles on trying to, like, elbow the body in a second. And then he threatens a dance, but everyone's looking at him going, look, we can see how long your arms are. It's never going to work. And Charles rips his head back, recovers his guard, and Tsarukyan falls into a triangle attempt, which, fair play to Charles Oliveira here, because the bell goes just as he's extending it over his hip. And honestly, you could have just pretended you didn't hear the bell for a couple of seconds. Make sure he comes out for the next round with a hyper-extended elbow. And then combining with that Dan Hooker thing from earlier, here's the knee shield scissor sweep position being used to set up an up kick, but, legal up kick. But the important part is he feels Tsarukyan trying to strike him. He gets the knee in front of him. With this knee shield scissor sweep position, whatever you want to call it, this knee serves as the frame so that the other foot can be brought back and placed inside it, and then you can put the guy on your foot and leg press him away, which is the hard part for being in guard, getting him on the end of your feet. So you can see here, he actually tries to up kick him in the chest. Up kick to the chest, maybe undefeated as overpowered sweep / get up. Gilbert Burns against Hamzat Chimaev. Ben Saunders was fantastic at them. Now, not everyone, even like dangerous hitters, not everyone's a great ground and pounder, as I mentioned. This is Ilia Topuria on top, and he did surprise with a beautiful little guard pass here. Here's Charles using that classic, pulling the forearms into the chest stuff that I was talking about with Fedor. As Topuria postures up, he opens his legs and starts inserting a knee in front of him, but Topuria is holding that foot, and he passes it real close in front of the body. It's very slick. Beautiful. A Toreando in MMA. Well, how often do you see that? Ends up getting, mounted crucifix, not good. But luckily, as this happens, Charles passes this leg over here. So he's going to use that heel to drag Topuria's leg back between his. And then, when he pendulums his legs like that, you can see he's lifting Topuria's heel up here. And he's able to pendulum him over the top. And begin attacking the near side leg. Now, leg attacks in MMA. Mostly getting people knocked out, to be honest. But the secret is, turn this fucking knee away. Because he can't hit you well if his knee is turned away from you. So stomp, stomp, stomp. Make him turn his back. Make him fall over as he's trying to get back up. This is all great. This is pretty risky, but he ends up converting that into a butterfly hook and then putting his hips back and sitting into a seated butterfly guard. Gets knocked out a bit later, but cool guard play. We like it. Hit a very similar leg entry against Beneil Dariush. It's something that Gary Tonin was doing a lot back in the day, using the sort of deep half guard to tip the guy over the top. And while your legs are currently on his leg on that side, you're going to throw him around this leg over here, like so. And he gets him into a saddle here, starts threatening the inside heel hook, starts collapsing the knee down. See, this is great. Very hard to hit him meaningfully when your knee is like pointing that way. And Benny actually does a really good job getting past it, because like I said, Beneil Dariush, unbelievably good grappler. But wacky inflatable fists. And this just shows that rule again. Once you get a knee in front, you can pass him to the other foot. Like that. So now the left foot is on him. And then the goal is, how do I emphasize this? Kick him the fuck away. Same shit again here. He's holding the overhook. Then he starts to take it out. Knee, foot, kick. Knee, foot, kick. And get up. So not the most glamorous stuff in the world, but he is the best in the world at fighting from a very bad position. And I think he never loses sight of the fact that it is a bad position. He's not trying to pull guard to armbar people, but the moment he gets taken down, he starts attacking people.